So Trent asks, I have the most difficult time convincing PE coaches to lay off weights for speed training days and competition. They cannot understand that weights should take place after speed work or competition. There's no question there. It's a statement, but maybe you guys can share some experience. And this will be unique. Again, Tony, with you in a school setting, Brendan, with you on the private side, like how you guys handle this, or to the extent that you can.
For me, track coaches at the high school level must get along with football coaches. If you don't, your track team's going to just be full of like band kids and math nerds and cross country kids. So you've got to have those football kids, those rugged, strong, explosive kids. So I cannot tell my football coach not to lift during the day, even on a day that's like our conference track meet. They'll say, oh, we're maxing out on squats regardless, but my kids, because we time so much, begin to understand the effect that certain lifts have on their performance. And so they will literally fake an injury or something in weightlifting PE on a day that they need to sprint. And I think that what I say about the weight room, yes, is preferable to lift after practice and not before. But strength is good. And I will always say strength is good, and the weight room is good. And the big thing for me is that the weight room should never interfere with speed training, and it should never interfere with the sport in season. Football coaches are really bad about that because football to them is a 12-month, 7-day a week sport. And they literally disrespect kids that are trying to win the 100 and the 4x1, the 200 at a track meet and say, no, lifting is more important than your performance. And I think that that's something that I have worked a lot to try to change that mindset, that football coaches who take the speed first, mantra, I think they understand that lifting should not interfere with speed.
To give the other end of that coin, and this is probably gonna, again, I'm in the private setting. If a kid knows he has a track meet that day and he's got weights at 6:30 a.m., he might just do, I might say, all right, half the volume, half the weight. Make him happy. Make the coach happy. You showed up, you checked the attendance box, lift half the weight, lift it fast, do half the reps. And then at least you're in there, you look like you're busy, so that makes them happy. But on the other end, it's not so detrimental that you're going to be carrying that fatigue in with you to that meet that day or that big performance. And I mean, Tony mentioned, if speed is the priority, performance is the priority, and this lift interferes with that, well, don't do that. But then also on the health perspective, if you're carrying dead legs into a tough track practice, a tough track meet, your coordination is going to fall apart much faster. Your outputs are going to crumble much faster. Your mechanics and posture are going to crumble as well. So you're going to start to compensate very early in that session. What happens when you start doing things you don't normally do at a very high intensity? You get hurt.
Yep.
You get banged up. So, on that end of things, that's how I view it as well. If you can make sure that it's not only not interfering with performance, but health and longevity in the sport, the best abilities, availability, get the hell out of the way.
You said about doing half, and I said, about, like faking a illness or something. Marcellus did that his entire time at Plainfield North. Marcellus, at one time, the PE teacher said that you're getting a D right now in PE because you're not lifting enough. And he put 265 on the bar and bench press 265 10 times. Marcellus was really strong, naturally strong, which is kind of an interesting subject, but he understood that he could not do everything that was prescribed by a guy that did not care about speed and still be the fastest person in the state of Illinois or the fastest person in the United States. So I think that those are good things. And as Brendan knows, we have to work with those people. we have to navigate and figure out a way that a kid is not going to overtrain and hurt himself.
Someday, maybe we'll get to the promised land where everybody's on the same page. In the meantime, it's part of the game. Okay, cool. Let's cruise through some more of these. We've got about 20 minutes here, and we've got about 16 questions that I want to try to get through. We might not get through all of them. Okay, so the next question is, after time away, 6 weeks after winter and spring ball, where do you normally start a training phase in terms of intensity and distance? Brendan, I'll let you go first on this one. So starting back up after time off, obviously context matters, but
I think that one thing to think about is your body is specifically prepared for a completely different task. So if you're coming off of basketball or wrestling or something of that nature, you haven't been training speed. And so you can't just jump in as if you have been. Like you can't just jump into a full-on track practice track's been going on for 3 or 4 weeks and you just finished basketball state championships or something, and you're jumping in as if you're ready with everybody else. I don't think there's a set volume or a set sort of barometer, but I would say safely start to reacclimate them into what you want them to eventually get to in the program to match everybody else. And then you can sort of phase them back in, and they're all in, and they're good. But if they're coming off of a long basketball season, wrestling season, or even if they're finishing up a football season and they're entering the off season to get ready for track, same deal. Football is really, really hard on your body, and you don't want to interrupt that delicate phase of recovering. Think about all the hits to their bones and their skulls, and they got bruises all over their body from getting hit and slammed and thrown, and you just don't want to get in the way of that. But then they're still going to be in a fragile state for another couple weeks potentially. Like they're not just magically out of football season and all of they're completely reset after 2 weeks. So you have to still be careful that, okay, this kid has a lingering ankle from football. Let's not ignore that. This kid has a lingering hip flexor strain from football, groin strain from football. Let's not ignore these things, and let's just be really smart and diligent as we sort of reintroduce them to speed power training.
I have kind of a counterintuitive approach. We start right away. This is really extreme, but we sprint on day one, and we do not care. There is, in the last 25 years of doing what I do, we've had one injury for a kid in his first week of training. And that kid was a kid who could not put his arms next to his body, that had been lifting so hard, like his coach had told him for the previous 3 months, that he literally like lumbered into speed training. And I looked at him, and he was all swelled up and stuff, and strong looking. And I'm like, that kid's going to get hurt. And I shouldn't have let him run. He got hurt on the first day. But that is the only injury I've ever had. Now, there might be a reason why I've had success, though, is because I don't think anybody microdoses like I do. Like, if you come in and do 10 speed drills, which include, some plyometric bounding and things like that as well, and then you run 3 sprints of less than 5 seconds, that's much different than a mid-season lactate workout in track and field. That's very different than a kid going through a 3-hour football practice. So maybe it is the microdose nature of a feed the cats beginning, which is speed, basically a day off or X factor, speed, basically a day off or X factor, and then a 3-day weekend. My guys remain healthy, even though they have not been acclimated yet to what we do.